Hello. The objective of this video is to be able to calculate mentally a reasonable approximation of square roots. The key here is that mentally part. Yeah, you could plug into a calculator and get an approximation. We don't want to think in terms of the calculator. We want to think in terms of how you could figure it out with your head. So in order to do that, you're going to need to know pretty much by heart these perfect squares. The lower ones, the 1 through 12, the lower ones you should work with, definitely should be familiar with. You should be familiar with the times table up to the 12 times table. And these are included in that. See, the perfect squares are the numbers that when you take the square root of them, you get a whole number. So to find them, you square whole numbers, and they'll give you the perfect squares. Square of 1 is 1, the square of 2 is 4, the square of 3 is 9, the square of 4 is 16, and so on down the line like that. The ones below 10 should come easily to you. Some of the larger ones that they like to use in word problems would be 225, which is 15 squared, or in other words, the square root of 225 is 15. 400, which is 20 squared. 441, which is 21 squared. 625, which is 25 squared. And 900, which is 30 squared. Again, those numbers, if you can remember that the square root of 400 is 20, the square root of 441 is 21, the square root of 625 is 25, and the square root of 900 is 30. If you can work with those, they pop up quite often. Good thing to have memorized. All right, estimate. Remember, an estimate is a rough calculation. Yeah, that does mean rounding. But in some cases, you don't get told to specifically round to a certain decimal place. So you might have situations where you just need to have a very rough estimate of what the number is in order to compare with another number. To do that, you need to work with those perfect squares. Looking at the square root of 150, counting up the perfect squares there, I'm thinking 10 squared is 100, 11 squared is 121, 12 squared is 144. That's pretty close, right? 144. That's less than the 150. The next one after 144 would be 13 squared, which is 169. So this 150 is somewhere between the value of the square root of 144 and the square root of 169. This, the square root of 144 is 12, the square root of 169 is 13. So it's got to be somewhere between 12 and 13. If you want to be a little more exact, well, which one is it closer to? Is it closer to 169 or 144? It's only 6 away from 144. It's 19 away from 169. So my approximate answer would be 12. And this is how I show my approximately equal to. Squiggle on top, straight line on the bottom. The textbook is going to give you a double squiggle. I don't really like that. Will I mark you wrong if you have that? No, but this is the way you're going to see it from me. In the textbook, you're going to see it with a double squiggle. Be familiar with both ways. Square root of 15. Well, that's a pretty low number. Let's say 2 squared is 4. That's less than 15. 3 squared is 9. That's less than 15. 4 squared is 16. That's greater than 15. So we know it's got to be somewhere between the square root of 9 and the square root of 16. Is it closer to 9 or is it closer to 16? It's only 1 away from 16, and the square root of 16 is 4. So the square root of 15 must be approximately equal to 4. So there's my answer on this side, my answer on this side. Sometimes you may get fractions in there. You don't want to have to take the time to do 1 divided by 8 plus 10 square root. Don't want to have to do that. Especially if you're just asked to estimate the answer. So looking at this, I remember that 9 is a perfect square. which is just below that. And then we have the 10 and 1/8, and then slightly higher than that would be the 4 squared, which again is 16. Well, 10 and 1/8, in this case, is going to be closer to 9 than it is to 16. And the square root of 9 is 3. So this is going to be equal, or approximately equal to, I remember that, approximately equal to 3. Sometimes with decimals it can be confusing. What's it close to? What's it not close to? Concentrate on that front number. It's a really small number. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, which is almost 4.2, but not quite. And the next one after that is 3 squared, which is 9. Definitely closer to 4 than it is to 9. The square root of 4 is 2, so this is all approximately equal to 2. You may be asked a greater than, less than, or equal to. You don't want to have to whip out the calculator for these if you don't have to. 50, that's pretty close to 49, and we know the square root of 49 is 7. So we know that the 8 should be bigger than that. The other way to check, 8 squared is 64. When you square the non-square rooted number, it can be compared with the number that does have the square root. Is 64 greater than 50? Yes. So 8 is going to be greater than 50. Over here, since I see the 12 first, 12 squared is 144. So 12 is equal to the square root of 144. So is 144 greater than 132? You betcha. It's going to be a greater than symbol. The gator mouth's going to go towards a 12. And this would be showing your work. Put something like that downside. Show what it's approximately equal to, or show the square. That's showing your work. Here we're going to ask to order from least to greatest. Well, to do that, we need to have an approximate value for these. This one is close to 16, definitely less than 25, but closer to 16 there. So I'm going to say the square root of 16 is 4. So this is about 4 in value. Definitely less than 5. So it's definitely going to be less than the 5. The 10 is close to 9. The square root of 9 is 3. It's really, really close to the 3, but it is going to be just a little bit bigger. So the approximate value is 3, but it should be a little bit bigger since 3 squared is 9, and that's 1 less than the 10. So it's going to be just a little itty bitty bit bigger. So the smallest one is going to be the 3. The next smallest will be the square root of 10. After that, you'd have the square root of 19, and then you have 5. Now, I know it took me a while to explain through this, but in your head, you can be doing those approximations, doing it like this, and getting an answer like that. Quicker than it would be to sit there, type it into your calculator, write out the decimals. It's just too much. All right, you-dos. Here's 6 you-dos. Give it a try. Pause the video. Welcome back. Square root of 44. 44 is close to 36, which is the square root of 36 is 6, but that's less than 44, and the next one up from there, 6 squared, would be 7 squared, which is 49. So is 44 closer to 49 or 36? It's closer to 49, so my answer is that it's approximately equal to 7. 122. Well, I know that 100 is 10 squared, and that's still not close enough because 11 squared is 121, which is still less than 125. Next one up from there is 12 squared, which is 144. Is it closer to 121 or 144? 121. That square root of 121 is 11. 75. 8 squared is 64. Which is less than 75. 9 squared is 81. Is it 75 closer to 64 or 81? It's closer to 81. The The square root of 81 is 9. So this is approximately equal to 9. Here, the square root of 28. That's close to 25. And the square root of 25 is 5. Next one up is 6 squared, which is 36. Definitely less than 36. So this number is definitely less than 6 in value, which means it's got to be less than 7. Here, 103. That's pretty close to 100, which is 10 squared. So this is approximately 10. Is it going to be more than 10 or less than 10? Well, 10 squared is 100. So 103 means it's going to be a little bit more. 9.5 is actually less than 10. So we're going to have this greater than symbol here. Order from least to greatest. Here, this one, we know the 144 is actually 12. 6 is 6. 50 is going to be close to 7. 18 is going to be close to 6, because that's close to the square root of 16. Put these in order. Well, 18, square root of 18 is actually going to be just a little bit larger. Whoa, what am I saying 6 for? 16, square root of 16 is 4. Duh. So it's going to be a little bit more than 4. So putting these in order, I would have square root of 18 is the smallest. Then I would have 6. Then I would have the square root of 50. Then I would have 8. And then I would have the square root of 144. And that's my answer on that one. See you in class.